Today's talk title is The Holiness of Connection. And I don't know why I picked that one, really. What happens is I'm supposed to come up with things, and I just start typing away in the program at our center where we keep all these things together. And then when I look on Friday, I go, ooh, really? The holiness of connection. Oh, me. Anyway, but I do trust that what I put in to our shared programming is what I'm supposed to talk about. So I did my own little discovery work. And I went, well, holiness. What's the definition of holiness? It's a state of religious purity. And not so, nah. It's the title of a religious leader. As in the Pope. If you met the Pope, you would say, hi, Pope, and then you'd say, Your Holiness. You wouldn't say, oh, Popest, or Pope, or hi, Pope. No. You wouldn't even call him by the name that he goes by. You would say, Your Holiness. And so, too, with the Dalai Lama, by the way, just in case you run into him. It's nice to know these things. So I dug a little deeper, and it comes from an old English word which means to be declared sacred. And the ness, the ness that's added to it, holiness, is a quality of something. And what I realized is that different religions hold different things as holy or sacred. So, for instance, some religions hold relics as sacred. Some religions hold people as sacred. For instance, the Sikhs have gurus. Those gurus were sacred. And I say were because they don't have any gurus. They had the last guru, and they're still reading the words of those gurus, if you were a Sikh. Some religions have places as sacred. So you might go to Lourdes, or you might go to other holy sites. In fact, I only know of one religion that holds time as sacred, and that's the Jewish tradition. It's time. This time to this time is sacred. For us, what's sacred, and I get it, now I know why I'm supposed to talk about it. For us, the recognition of connection is sacred. We recognize connections as sacred, holy. Being together is holy. Well, there's a song that I'm not going to sing because I only know the first line, but it's the song that everything is holy now. I used to go to church, and I used to worship, and I used to take the sacrament, and now I realize everything is holy now. Everything is sacred now. What was happening in this song, I believe, is that they were recognizing that they are connected, and that connection is holy. That connection is sacred. That's a wonderful experience, frankly. We teach unity. There's even a whole segment of New Thought called Unity. But unity is beyond the title of a church system or organization. Unity is the experience, the felt experience of connection and the sacredness of it. Now, what keeps us from experiencing this? Because it's going on. I can't create a connection. I can create a conscious experience of that connection. But I can't create a connection that's already there. What keeps us from experiencing that connection, and I love it. I'm just, the way I do my talks now is I just start writing and then I go, really? I would have done something else. We're going to talk about this. Besides the belief that we grew up with, that it's me and it's you and that it might be us, one of the things that makes us break through to an experience of unity is a belief in superiority. Some things are better than other things. Some people are better than other people. Human beings believe that they're better than animals. Some human beings think they're better than the planet itself. That sense of superiority, or that belief in it, belief in it, keeps us from wanting to experience unity because, we got our place. And yet in the gospel, which is just the good news. And so if somebody tells you something about the gospel and it doesn't sound like good news, it's not the gospel. I mean, the gospel means good news. This is good news. You're a sinner is not a really good news. And Jesus never said it. Jesus never said it. Frankly, I've said this before, and Jesus and I are now in talking terms. For a while, I wasn't even speaking to him. But now we talk. And I realized that what was said about him is not what he said about himself or his belief systems. You're welcome. So the gospel is always for good stuff. So let's just take since it's Christmas time in the city and the country, I was just seeing all the people who put up lights, and Tim and I are going, oh my goodness, they got their lights up. They had their lights up so early, we're so behind. Anyway, let's just take, for instance, the two birth stories, Jesus' birth stories. There's two, one in Matthew, one in Luke. Both of them were added anywhere between 1.5 centuries to 2 centuries after Jesus was born. They were added. They were inserted. They were a totally different author than the ones that wrote Matthew and Luke. Why? Mainly because they were moving into, this is scholarship. Christians were moving into more of a Greek and Roman environment, and there all the gods have holy births. I mean, no, you didn't have somebody that had power without being the son of Zeus or Jupiter, and you got to have something holy going on. So stick these stories in; it'll make it good. Anyway, but even then, the stories. I mean, my goodness, who got to hear the angels sing? Well, it wasn't the high priest. And it wasn't the folks that were hanging out in the temple. It was lowly farm workers. No, look at the significance. No, you didn't get a higher place, therefore you got angels. Who got the first announcement of the birth? Yeah, well, it wasn't even family and friends. It was animals. Who got to recognize a divine occurrence? It wasn't the political dignitaries. It was foreigners. How inclusive can you get? Who was highly favored? A woman. Come on. I mean, there's little hints everywhere. All of the hierarchy was like subtly dissipated. And Jesus was self-assured enough in his own humanity and his own spiritual authority that he gathered the uneducated, the gruff, and the outcasts to be his disciples and apostles. He had laborers. He had tax collectors. Oh, by the way, it's not like the IRS. It's not some guy that sits behind a desk. You know what a tax collector had the power to do? Is to go into your house and take anything he wanted. Because he had to give a bunch of money to this person and then that person, and then he had some for himself, which didn't leave a lot in the household. Tax collectors were usually part of the village, so they knew when somebody had a windfall. Tax collectors were hated. Hated. So, of course, the person who wanted to establish a new order of things would take a tax collector. And there were women apostles. Now, that was written out later, but there's way too much evidence. I mean, even Paul talks about the apostle, and it was a woman's name. Come on. He was so advanced. So, are you ready to set yourself up for being a master of conscious connection? Meaning the consciousness of connection. You ready? Okay, so let's leave the Bible and go into quantum physics. So excited. See, we need to expand our paradigm because we're still stuck in Newtonian physics. How many of you remember Newtonian physics? You know, if this does this, it's going to have a reaction here. What a body wants to do, a body wants to do. You know, let's see, you can change energy into matter and matter into energy. Not good Newtonian physics. Let's just read something. All matter is held in place by a force. Behind this force, we must assume the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of creation. Now, who do you think's Star Wars? Yoda? Gary Zukav? Speaking on Oprah, Super Sunday? The Matrix? This very modern idea was blurted out 89 years ago by the gentleman who just was a wee bit ahead of his time. Genius physicist Max Planck, Planck, made that reference to God after he accepted the Nobel Prize in 1917 for developing quantum theory. Oh, isn't this good? This very daring statement almost blew his fellow physicists out of their chairs. It wasn't enough that Max was accepting the Nobel Prize for developing quantum physics, the first concept to explain physics at the subatomic level. This new concept would also bridge the gap between science and spirituality. He was going where no man had gone before. Where's the piano when you need it? Jeez. Musicians in their breaks. Oh, my goodness. So, here's the issue with quantum physics. It didn't work on the macro. It only worked on the micro. Newtonian physics really was able to explain why the moon was in a certain place at a certain time. It explained why we weren't rushing towards the sun and being burned up. It did not explain the microscopic world of atoms. Remember the good old days when there was a neutron and an electron? Remember the good old days? Well, guess what? That is no more. There's only swirling probabilities, and an electron doesn't show up until you look for it. It's so true. Yes. It's just fuzz. And what they've discovered is that even in the electron, which is the building blocks of what we call matter, it's 99% space. We're just nothing but space. Exciting! Now, what's this got to do with connection? Stick with me. Stick with me. I just have to have my science, stuff once in a while. So, Einstein died wanting to find some sort of unifying principle behind Newtonian physics, which does work, but not on the micro level, and quantum physics that does work, but not on the universal level. And it was called that they were the search for the unifying principle. what came out of that and what's being experimented with now, and people and scientists are starting to move into this, is called the 0-point energy field. Rumi, there is a field beyond right thinking and wrong thinking. I'll meet you there. Ernest Holmes said, eventually the scientists will reach the mountaintops of knowledge and be greeted by the mystics. Makes me just so happy. Thank you for sharing my excitement. You know, the 0-point energy field idea is that since most everything is empty space, what really is in existence is vibration, frequencies. I've seen it on social media. How many of you have seen those things on social media? Oh, it's all about your frequency. It's all about what you're putting out. It's not what you affirm. It's what your frequency is. Guess what? That's what the scientists are saying now. That even though it looks like there's a person here and a person here and a person here, as Einstein would say, separation is an optical delusion. Separation is an optical delusion. We are vibrating and we see that vibration. You show up as this vibration and that vibration, and yet we can change those vibrations. And we actually then are in a field, what they call the 0-point energy field, which is a field of vibration after vibration. So this field of intelligence in which there are vibrations knowing itself. So even the mystic would say, you looking out at the universe is the universe recognizing itself. Meister Eckhart, what he said was, with the eye with which I view God is the eye of God viewing me. I mean, come on. It's all this, so there's such a good connection. Now that's, like I could get excited about that, but what's it mean? What it means is, I believe, well, let's go back to the micro and the macro and the micro, because as above, so below. Here's the little thing I didn't know, because I love biology. I loved science. I took every advanced placement science class. I took science. It's like, they wanted me to take languages and typing. It's like, no, just give me science. And I'm finding out stuff about science. So, for instance, when I was studying biology, they said that the cells talk to each other by sending out chemicals, and then another cell would react to that chemical and do something else. What they're finding is, yes, there are chemicals, but more important, whether there's a chemical or not being transferred between cells, they send frequency waves to each other. It's almost like they have little cell phones. As above, so below. I mean, whoever came up with cell phones, maybe they were just listening to their cells. This is how we talk. I don't know why you have to have a landline anyway. They don't ooze out chemicals. But they tap into each other's, listen to this. This is what I read. They tap into each other's signature frequency and send a message to a particular cell that they want to address and get attention. I know it is. So what if we gave up our superiority, at least in this center, and realized that everything was alive? And everything had intelligence. Maybe that's why people have really great experiences when we go to some place with rocks that have been worshipped and had worship around them for a long time, whether it was Stonehenge or Peru, and especially Egypt. Maybe it's the rocks with the intelligence implanted in that. And you touch it, and the frequency of that intelligence moves into you. Something happens. I'm telling you, something happens. So let's just start out easy. Let's take a plant. I was taking a break from my talk, and I had gotten to the place about, everything's alive and everything's a frequency. And so I decided to talk to one of my plants, which is my favorite plant because it reminds me of my grandmother. My grandmother had an asparagus fern. And in the summertime, I put my asparagus fern outside on the porch, and it grows. It's just amazing. I bring it in, and it starts to die. And I finally just said, because I'm, it's a frequency, I can talk. What's with you? I did say it that way. I was going to say, what's with you, honey? No, I said, what's with you? And I actually got it. It's too close to the vent. It got too hot. It's been going on for years, and I never picked that up. But all of a sudden, because I asked, since I wanted information from it, it told me. There's a retreat that I do sometimes. I do a lot of retreats, but sometimes I will have people go out and pick a tree and talk to the tree. Spend 2 hours with a tree. The one that I'm remembering right now, we were in Monaco and Morocco. That's where we went to Morocco. We couldn't afford Monaco. Anyway, we went to Morocco. And we were at this retreat center and had it all to ourselves. It was just us. And there were trees all around and different kinds of trees. And I sent people off. I said, you got 2 hours, go pick a tree, sit by the tree and talk to the tree. And there was this scientific guy, a gentleman, a science. Now, actually, he was also a medium. He was becoming a medium. And he thought he could talk to dead people, but he couldn't talk to a tree. Interesting. See, think about it. Human life is more significant than plant life. Do you see how the separation can happen? I have, anyway. So he goes off, and he said, I'm not sitting by no tree because I'm not getting dirty. No, really, he came back and said that. What went through his mind. I'm not sitting by no tree because I'm not getting dirty. And he's walking along, and there's a chair by a tree. And he said, all right. So he goes and he sits in the chair and he's like, how do you talk to? So he just puts his hand on the tree and he said, the tree for 2 hours wouldn't shut up. It just downloaded and downloaded and downloaded and told him all sorts of things about life itself and his life and everything else. He said, finally, I had to get away. I had to journal. That was just way too much. You can talk to trees. You can be energized by trees. A lot of the Native Americans in our country, before there was horses, like in this area, they would run long distances, and when they got tired, they'd back up against certain types of trees that would give them energy to go along the way. Oh yeah, it happens. Trees they are so alive. I just read, and our property is surrounded by fir trees, that trees, if they love you, will actually psychically protect the land. So now when I go in and out of our driveway, I thank them because I do feel protected. And so if you got a tree in your yard, thank it. Say thank you for, watching the house while I'm gone. Do you know that they talk to each other and care for each other? There's so much intelligence in a tree. And they're not off murdering each other. Then let's go with the animals. Talk to your animals. I've decided I'm putting myself on a program to learn how to talk to animals because I got animals I just don't understand. Finley's pretty good. Finley, he'll look at me, and he's probably thinking, you are so stupid. Can't you get this? You talk to God and can't talk to me? And finally I'll say, do you want food? Do you want to go out? And he spins. Yes, he spins. Animals are so smart. But see, what happens is I realize that I'm willing to talk to him. Am I willing to have him talk to me? Or is it a superiority thing? Think about it. What if we could understand? What if we could communicate in such a way with the animals that they would tell us how we need to change the rivers. Oh, no, we don't want to know how to change the rivers and the lakes. But if we really understood that they are a vibration, we're a vibration, and in God there's no difference of the vibrations. God doesn't see vibration differently, like this is a good vibration and that's a bad vibration. This is a better vibration, this is lower vibration. No, it's all vibration. Take that in. So I want to share a meditation with you. I'd love for you to just close your eyes. Oh, by the way, just because you're here, let's have a little Star Wars. Star Wars. No, wasn't it? No, it's up. Oh, yes. Thank you. Star Trek. I just, we're going to be people that go where a lot of people don't go, which is to start being informed by everything. If God is intelligence, and every point of vibration is a point of intelligence, what are we missing out on when we only listen to ourselves, or we only listen to social media, or we only listen to the news? What if our whole body was crying out and saying, you know what, that food's not good for me? What if we were really listening? What if it wants to respond in pleasant and beautiful ways? What if the cat could be our new guru? Just don't let it bother you. All you need is just a little love. Keep yourself clean. Eat well and then have zoomies. Those you have to have a cat to know about a zoomie. Anyway, so let's do this meditation. Close your eyes if you choose to. And this is a meditation based on the theory of 0-point energy field. Picture a spider web, a gigantic spider web of silver light. And every living thing is connected on this web. Now let's expand this idea. Instead of it being a two-dimensional web, it's actually a web in 3D, as wide and deep and spreading out in every direction throughout the universe. It's infinite. It is a sparkly ocean of ideas and the history of everything. What's more, not only is it made up of matter, but it's a sea of energy. And it also occupies the space between the stars and the empty space between your cells and even the space between the nucleus and the electrons of your atoms. Just see light everywhere. In Hinduism, it said that the heavens of Indra, which is the sky god, were nothing more than pearls linked together to hold all humanity. This sea of energy is everything and everything that will be. Remember, matter itself is almost completely insubstantial. It's made up of 99% empty space. Now, instead of seeing the absence of matter as a vacuum, envision that this void, along with the rest of creation, is electric, vibrating, and alive. And not only that, this ocean, this matrix of light, is logging information into the gigantic library of records in microscopic inference patterns as we move along in our own history. And as we allow ourselves to vibrate at different vibrational levels, we will send out messages of love and peace and well-being to those who are receptive to being influenced by it. So once again, we send our love over the mountains. We send our love over the seas. We send our love into the heavens. We send our love into the deep, deep center of ourselves. We send our love to our family. We send our love to our bodily organs. We send our love to our businesses, to our workplaces. We send our love to our neighborhood. We send our love deep into the ocean to bless the ocean. We send our love high into the sky to bless the winged things. For all is connected. And we are a center of divine operation, the operation of love. And so it is.